Welcome back to another video, everybody. Today I wanted to look at continuous controller messages. How can we make all of these sounds sound really expressive? Let's get into it. Some time ago I did a video for Roland on the firmware 2.0 update, which has actually had a huge amount of views. I'll link it below. And in some of that demo that I did, I used some of the internal sounds, which is what we're looking at today, and I also demonstrated some of these continuous controller messages. And I've had quite a few emails asking, how is this done? How can we get into this extra level of expressive sound control on the Aerophone? Well, continuous controllers aren't new by any means. They've been around for decades now. They are a way of sending signals to a sound, either internal or external, to make very fine controls. Now, these can be very basic things like volume or pan, modulation. But in the case of the Aerophone, there are other aspects of the sounds that we can access. In that introduction, you heard me playing the shakuhachi sound, and it's got some little ornament sounds there. So here's the straight sound, and here's the sound with the ornament, which is actually a CC message. I can also change that sound in this setup with my lips. Here is the sound with very little lip pressure, which is going to make a rather clear sound, no breathy sound to it. And if I want to add the breathy sound, I've got this set up so that when I put a little bit bite pressure on it, I get the airy sound. Here's the straight sound going into the breathy sound. So how do we do that? And how do we know which of these CC messages to send, and how do we use them? Let me show you. The first thing you want to do is go to the Roland website and download what is actually the tone list. It's not called the continuous controller list, it's called the tone list. You'll get this document. And here, as you can see on the left-hand side, is a list of all of the sounds. It now runs on to 2 pages. And from the left-hand side, there's the name of the sound. There are some of the default settings that are programmed into each sound. And then here, to the middle and to the right-hand side of that document, that's what we're interested in. In these central columns, thumb controller left and thumb controller right. Now that is pointing us towards the little button that sits under the right hand thumb rest here, and this can actually move in 4 ways, but we're talking here about moving it to the left or moving it to the right. Now the preset settings that are on built into each sound are listed under thumb controller left and thumb controller right, and you can see, for instance, on the alto saxophone sound, if you move the thumb controller to the left, it's set to use CC-18, and that happens to be the growl sound for the alto sound. If we move the thumb to the right, it's set to do what is known as a portamento sound. That's when the sound kind of slides from one note to the other. But if you look further over to the right-hand side, you've got many other sorts of sounds and ways of controlling the sound. We can add noise level, like a breath sound. There's the growl sound that's already programmed in. We can make a sort of what they call a bend mode. There's the portamento, the staccato, the fall sound, which is when you get to the end of a phrase, you might want to make the sound like it's falling down the notes. That's very often used in a lot of popular and particularly jazz and big band sound. Or we can introduce a subtone sound, where you get that sort of more breathy sound to the whole sound. So all of those are available. There are actually more than that as well, because there is a list of generally used controller messages as well. If you Google continuous controller messages for MIDI, you'll find there's some extra ones as well. I'm going to show you one of those in a moment. But this is the document that you need, and now I want to show you how do we actually make those changes on the instrument so that we get those controls. So if you open up a sound, let's take this shakuhachi sound that I demonstrated earlier. Now I've actually copied this sound into one of my user memories, but you can select any sound you want. If we press the menu button and go over to the right until you get to where it says left, it says minimum and maximum, so there's a minimum and maximum control for these settings as well, and then it says the right thumb, how do we make those settings as well. So what I've done here is, if you look on this left setting, at the moment it's set up that when you press to the left, it's going to trigger CC18. Now on its default setting, if I can find it on the list, CC18 is a growl sound. So if that's what you want to keep there, that's absolutely fine. But for instance, if we wanted to change that setting to the ornament sound, which I was demonstrating earlier, if you look on the document, that's CC81. So if we make sure that the figures are highlighted underneath with those arrows, all we've got to do is move that setting to 81. And now when you move the lever over to the left, you're going to get the ornament sound. And we can save that just by pressing and holding menu. Set the position you want to write that sound to, and you will press yes at this point. I don't want to overwrite mine, so I'm going to press the left-hand button to say no, and your setting will be saved in one of your user programs. Now, there's a few other little things that we can do here, because we have a sort of minimum and maximum control, so you can experiment with how much of that sound you want to introduce. Now, a lot of them come as like a switch. It's either on or off, so it wouldn't make any difference really what you do for those settings. On the switch settings, usually any number below 64, I believe it is off, and any setting above 64 is on. And so as you're looking at your settings here, if you wanted to reduce, it's just a case of moving the number up or down. There's also this setting here, one further over to the right, which is called toggle on and off. So what the toggle does, if you move the thumb either over to the left or the right and then let it go, that effect will still be used until you press the thumb over again to that left or right hand side. If you've got it on off, like we have here, that effect is only going to work whilst you're holding your thumb over to the left or right. So a toggle makes it hold on to the effect. If you turn the toggle off, it's only a momentary effect. It's only going to be happening as you hold your thumb over to the left or the right. And of course, the other way we can change this is on the app. Now, I'm thinking of doing a video on the app in a few weeks' time. On the app, it's sort of set out quite nice and clearly. And also what we can do from there is we can change the continuous controller messages for both the left and right and the up and down settings as well. But for now, to keep this simple, this is probably the easiest way to do it directly on the Aerophone. So you've already seen the shakuhachi, is that how you say it? I don't know. You've already seen the shakuhachi demonstration that I've done there. The other ones I was going to show you is this way of doing a fall sound on the brass. Programmed this sound via the app, and again I'm hoping to do a video show you exactly how I've programmed it, but you can take really any of the brass sounds. I think will do this. Any of the saxophone sounds or the trumpet sounds will let you add a fall to the sound. Okay, so what I've got on this particular sound is a mixture of a trumpet, a trombone and a saxophone to give it a kind of horn section. Again, I demonstrated this on the Roland video. And what I can do here is just play nice short notes. But as I play a longer note and hold my thumb over to the right hand side, I get that distinctive fall. So let's just see how we've got that set up. So here's my sound that I did on the app. It's called Funk Horns. And if we go onto the menu here on the left hand setting, again, it's set to that CC18. It adds a bit of growl. Where I made my change on this one was on the right thumb lever. So this is when I'm pushing the thumb over to my right. Okay. And if you look on the tone list document, CC81 is generally the continuous controller that adds that pitch fall. And so all I needed to do was go to this setting here and program it to be CC81. Now when I move my thumb over to the right, I get that pitch fall. I've got the toggle set to off because what we don't want to do is have every note being a fall in pitch. So on this one, we've set it to off. I mentioned earlier about even more controller changes that we can use. Besides the ones that are on the list, on the tone list, there are additional ones as well. Some of them work, some of them don't work. The one that I found very useful is CC64. Now this can work like a sustain pedal would do, and very easy to set up. So it's the same process, just go to either thumb left or thumb right and set it to be controller 64. So now I've got this set. When I move over to the left, I control the sustain pedal. As you can see, there are huge possibilities with these CC messages, and it really does add an extra layer of control and realism and expressivity to the sound. You'll also notice on the list of CC messages, if you go way up high, you'll even get into the settings where you can make the thumb lever add an additional note to the one that you're already playing. That works really well in the app, and again, that's something I intend to show you in a future video. So please have an experiment with those CC messages. Comment below if you find one that works really well for yourself. Please share with us so we're all learning together. If you haven't already subscribed, I'd love you to do that, and please give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and you found it useful. Hope to see you again very soon. Take care.